Good morning once again. Ladies and gentlemen, we have soon come to session 5, which considers the nature of measurements. In any piece of research, you need to measure your concepts and variables. So today, let us talk about measurement. Without realizing it, most of us spend the day engaging in various forms of measurement. We measure various types of beverages. We stir a few tablespoons of Milo, coffee, or other beverages in a cup of water. We also measure the quantity of salt and pepper we want in our stew, and the quantity of sugar we want in our tea. We keep an eye of the clock so that we will not be late to our offices and lectures. Most of the things we measure are fairly concrete. Pounds on a scale, teaspoon of coffee, the amount of gas in the gas cylinder, etc. But how do we measure a person's attitude towards, say, alcoholic beverages? How do we know, for instance, the extent of subjective feelings, attitudes, and perceptions that might exist in different individuals? In research, unless our variables are measured, we will not be able to test our hypothesis generated from the theoretical framework. Now, to make possible the measurement of variables in quantitative or qualitative way, researchers have developed scales. In this session, therefore, we discuss 4 types of scales. These are the nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. After completing this session, you should be able to define and explain measurement, name and explain the 4 levels of measurement, identify the properties or characteristics of each scale of measurement. The key topics are 1, the levels of measurement; 2, scales of measurement. The first topic will be scales of measurement. The second will consider the nominal scale, the third ordinal scale, the 4th interval scale, and the 5th the ratio scale. These are your references. Let's take a brief look at scales of measurement. Let me provide you with a definition. According to Churchill, there are rules for assigning numbers to objects in such a way as to represent quantities of attributes. So measurement involves categorizing and or assigning values to variables. Measurement can be quantitative or qualitative. Quantitative measurement involves numerical values and attributes. Variables that can be measured in quantitative terms include temperature, IQ scores, and the number of family members, age, and income. Qualitative measurement concentrate on labels. They name, and then also qualities. They concentrate on names, labels, and qualities. So in qualitative measurement, common concepts or symbols are used to describe the attributes. And one common procedure involved in describing and classifying categories. The classification of gender into male and female is a qualitative measurement. So these are the 4 scales of measurement. They are nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio. Let's consider the nominal scale. Now, the nominal scale has only one property, which is identity. It is a naming scale. The scale only classifies objects into distinct categories. This scale classifies objects into distinct categories, and for that matter, they must be mutually exclusive or exhaustive, as we saw early on. We have explained what is mutually exclusive and also exhaustive. Now, examples of variables measured on the nominal scales are gender. That is, gender is classified into male, female, age classified into young, old, marital status into single, married, divorced, etc. All these are categorical variables. Apart from categorizing objects or events into discrete groups, numbers or symbols are used to identify the categories for purposes of coding. That is, for example, if we categorize people as Catholic, Presbyterian, Anglican, or Pentecostal, we can assign 1 to Catholic, 2 to Presbyterian, 3 to Anglican, 4 to other. Now, all that we are saying here is that the numbers have no intrinsic value at all. We are only saying that we want to input this into the computer, and so in order for us to be able to code the data, we assign the various categories with numbers. So take note that for the nominal scale, the numbers you see behind the Catholic, Presbyterian, Anglican, and so on have no intrinsic value. Ordinal scale. The important thing you should know about the ordinal scale is that it has two identities. It has two properties. That it has the property of identity and it has the property of magnitude. So it has the property of the first one, that is the nominal scale, plus its own identity, which is magnitude. Let's consider identity. Identity simply means, as we have seen, to classify things into groups and categories. Examples: age, young, youngest, old, older, small, smallest, big, biggest. Secondly, it has the identity of magnitude, which means we can rank order the variables in a continuum according to some order. We can rank order the variables in some continuum according to order. So if I take age, for instance, I have youngest, young, old, and older. You see that I am ranking the categories according to some pattern. I start from young, youngest, I come to young, come to old, and then older. Smallest, small, smallest, small, big, and biggest. That is the ordinal scale. So it has two properties: property of identity and magnitude. Let's take a look at one example. Socioeconomic status of individuals. We can label this lower class, middle class, or upper class. A rank of 1 is assigned to upper class, 2 middle class, and 3 lower class, and so on. In this situation, the numbers have some mathematical meaning. Families in category 1, we may say, have higher socioeconomic status than families in category 2. It is important also to take note that in ordinal measurement, the attributes can be rank ordered in an ascending or descending order. But the distances between the attributes do not have any meaning because we do not know the relative differences between the two magnitude. We do not know the relative differences between the two magnitude. Let's use one example to illustrate this. Respondents were asked to state whether or not they are satisfied with a phenomenon, teaching quality, using the scale similar to the one below: very satisfied, satisfied, neither satisfied nor dissatisfied, dissatisfied, and very dissatisfied. Now, the ranking of these categories from very satisfied to very dissatisfied implies a hierarchy or an order of satisfaction. When we are going to code the responses, the researcher may allocate numbers as follows: 5 for very satisfied, 4 for satisfied, 3 for neither satisfied nor dissatisfied, and then 2 for satisfied, dissatisfied, and then 1 for very dissatisfied. Now, while those categorized by 5 have a higher satisfaction than those by 4, there is no equal distance implied here between the numbers. For instance, those who are satisfied and labeled 4 are not twice as satisfied as those who are dissatisfied. Those who are satisfied and are labeled 4 are not twice as satisfied as those who are dissatisfied, who are labeled 2. Let's take the next example for this. In an examination, candidates are graded A, B, C, D, etc. according to performance. We know that A is better than B, which is also better than D. But is A 4 times better than D? Is it 2 times better than D? We do not know this. I hope this is well understood. Interval scale. This scale has the following characteristics. It has an identity. That is, it helps researchers to determine whether two values are the same or different. That is categorical variables. Now, can determine whether one value is greater or smaller than the other. It can also determine the degree of difference between the values. And it contains equal intervals but has no absolute 0 point. I will explain this later. So the interval scale has all the properties of the nominal scale. It has all the properties of the ordinal scale, in addition to its own property, which is that it can determine the degree of difference between the values, and then it has equal interval, but it has no 0 point, natural 0 point. Example, we can group students according to their IQ. 1, 200, 2, 100, and then 3, 140. This means that the students have different IQs. Remember that this is a nominal measurement. We have categorized them into groups according to their IQ level. So that is a nominal measurement. We continue with the example. We can also rank and order the students from the highest to the lowest. Remember that this is an ordinal measurement. So in ordinal terms, the first student has a higher IQ than the second and the third. We can also calculate the difference in IQ amongst the students and conclude that the IQ of the first student is 100 points higher than the second student. This is a characteristic which the ordinal and the nominal scales don't have. One other characteristic of the interval scale is that it has equal interval but has no true 0 point. It has equal interval but has no true 0 point. Let me use the Celsius temperature as an example. The Celsius temperature is an interval variable. It is meaningful to say that 25 degrees Celsius is 3 degrees hotter than 22 degrees Celsius, and that 17 degrees Celsius is the same amount hotter, that is 3 degrees, than 14 degrees Celsius. So you see the state of equal intervals here. Notice, however, that 0 degrees Celsius does not have a natural meaning. That is, 0 degrees Celsius does not mean the absence of heat. We are saying that if you have 0 degrees on the Celsius thermometer, it is not natural, because the absence, 0 degrees Celsius does not necessarily mean that there is no heat at all. Now, these properties of the interval scale allow the researcher to determine whether two values are the same or different, as in the nominal measure, whether one value is greater than or smaller than the other, as in the ordinal scale, and the degree of difference between the values. So we say the interval scale is superior to the ordinal and nominal scale. So in mathematical terms, at this level of measurement, numbers are assigned to categories. Numbers are assigned to categories, and they are used to count and rank, but can also be added to or subtracted from each other. This makes the interval scale superior to the nominal and ordinal scales. However, because the scale has no true 0 point, numbers assigned to categories cannot be multiplied or divided. Consider this example to illustrate the point I just made. We have two students with IQ 105 and 125 respectively. In nominal terms, they have different IQs. In ordinal terms, the second student has higher IQ than the first. In interval terms, the IQ of the second student is 20 points higher than the first student. But we cannot say that the second student is 5 times smarter than the first. The 20 points difference does not tell us how much or by how much smarter the first student is than the second. The last scale, that is the ratio scale. This is the most superior of all the four we are considering. Now, the ratio scale has all the properties of the nominal, ordinal, and interval scale: categorization, rank order, and equal interval. More importantly, it has an additional property, which is the absolute 0 point. What this means is that the 0 point on the ratio scale corresponds to a total absence of a property being measured. That is height. For instance, height, weight, and age are examples. We can have a situation where we have no age, no height, or no weight at all. Now, because there is an absolute 0, it is legitimate to compare the absolute magnitudes of the numbers. So the absolute 0 point makes it possible and meaningful to multiply and divide the numbers used to measure on a ratio scale. And I say here that in the social sciences, this level of measurement is used mainly when measuring attitudes and opinions. Now, the geometric mean, as well as the arithmetic mean, median, and mode are a meaningful measure of average when attributes are measured on the ratio scale. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much again. So soon we have come to the end of another lecture, that is measurement. As I have always said, try and read your lecture notes thoroughly, but read them along the relevant portions of the textbooks I have prescribed. When you have finished, take a look of the sample questions and discuss them amongst yourself. Thank you and bye for now.